Okay, on to our monthly budget report. Let's see.
Good afternoon, Deputy Superintendent of Operations Scott Jones with the monthly budget report for the September board meeting. We are 2 months into the next fiscal year. The board report, or the report to the board and the public-facing report, is for the first month of the new fiscal year 2025. I can attest that the Utah State Board of Education is in a strong financial position, able to meet all of its known commitments and obligations, and that there are no pressing matters or issues with the budget, especially early on in the next year. What I would like to do is there's a link in the board memo to the new format for the board report. If we could just pull that up real quick. And I'll only take maybe 2 hours on this, but no, I'm just kidding. Come on. Okay. So what we've done here is we've instituted a new format for the budget report that is, again, facing or board member accessible and public accessibility to it. It's only 4 pages. So we've eliminated the scrolling. I mean, yes, you have to scroll 4 pages, but recall that the previous version of the report was in excess of 60 pages, or with each one of the sections. If you'll go to the left column, any board member can select a particular section. So if you'll select one, I don't care, pick one, and open that up, you get the updated real-time data on the particular. Now remember, there is a lag when we do give you the report. So like, for instance, this is July. July is a complicated month because it's the first month of the next fiscal year, but then it's also the last month of the previous fiscal year, which we sometimes refer to as period 13. If you go down and go to page 2, so you can see that it can give you the high level information, and then 4 pages. So now if you'll go back, if you'll hit page 3, page 4, just to orient everybody to it. It is interactive, meaning it relies on you to make selections for, what your particular interest is in, quote unquote, drilling down, right? Making sure that we're tracking every dollar that comes in, and we do rather well with that process. So pending any questions on that, sir, at your direction, or chair, I'll move to the closing packet that is also in your backups that we provide every year after we get certifications from state finance. Any questions on the new format for the monthly budget report?
Not seeing lights. Thank you, though.
Okay, so if we could pull up the presentation on the, the closing packet. And I just want to say Deborah Jacobson is on vacation, and to my left behind me is Sue Mack, and I think maybe Brian Ross is with us as well, but Sue Mack is here, and boy, are they some great leaders, financial leaders. Deborah does a great job. Sue Mack is there, Brian Ross, and I do want to just make sure that we recognize all of our accounting staff, our financial operations staff, for a job well done. Once again, we closed well, and any organization that closes well begins well and then closes well the next year. So all the additional hours of year-end close in what amounts to arguably half the state's budget is pretty great. Is pretty intense. So I won't go through all of the wording, but if you go to the next slide, and here we do the summary, or the high-level executive summary on the FY24 financial closeout for your and the public's review. Next slide. If you'll scroll down. Here's the federal revenue the federal revenue that we brought in next year. So, Chair, your direction, if I could ask board members, how much are we estimating in federal revenue for this year, for FY25? Does anybody remember what I briefed on that? It is much lower than 800 million. It's about 600 million plus. Of that, 2/3 is for the child nutrition program. We're estimating that too. I know there's a lot of interest in federal revenue, but as we close out or come away from the ARP ESSER funds, then you'll see a decline in the estimate for federal revenue for 25 versus what we brought in federal revenue in 24. Next slide.
So can I ask just real quick?
Sure, yeah.
Chair,
Yes,
is that okay?
yes, ma'am.
So the 326 million, that is pretty inclusive of the ESSER funds,
Yes.
the EAMS. Okay,
Right.
that's why I was like,
Yeah, yeah.
this was off from what I thought, but
Right. Yeah,
Perfect. Okay, thank
yeah.
you.
So you'll see a percentage of the overall budget decline in the amount of federal funds that we're estimating for 25. Because remember, federal funds are reimbursed, right? So a lot depends on how many meals, those types of things, especially in that CNP category. So, okay. So next slide, here's our expenditures, high level expenditures. Please note the just slightly over 1% on administrative costs. That's pretty darn good. By way of comparison to other states that have similar student sizes, too, I know there's a lot of discussion coming up on your requests for funding and critical FTEs, those types of things. I think this is probably a value add to you to see where the money's going expenditure-wise. And, the fact is that most of it is flow through to our LEAs. So next slide. Okay, this slide and all the slides after that are very detailed. They show each program and each line item so that you can show that, and we love this color in financial operations. Green means good. Green means yes, okay, we did it, right? And that we, we closed. We do have a surplus. We have a surplus budget. We are maybe the only agency that can have non-lapsing balances, meaning, we can carry forward money. Why I think that's important for you to know is because tomorrow in Finance Committee, we will be looking at those balances. And, I'm excited for that. I know all the Finance Committee members are too. They look forward to this every year where we do the, non-lapsing forward, carry forward spend plans and all that. So it's awesome. All right. So any more, or Chair, at your direction, I'll take any questions on, what is the high level closing packet summary and, for closure of the FY24. We're certified, state finance is good, we balance. So onward and upward and into Happy New Year, fiscal year 25.
Thank you, Deputy Superintendent Jones. And I've said this before, but a lot of times in finance, it's the things that don't make the headlines that are impressive, and things run, they get done. We don't even think about the fact that it's closing a fiscal, I'm off mountain biking or something, or but you guys, being in finance, we see you build up to this. So we appreciate all the depth and rigor that goes into making sure that we close out. It's not just putting a stamp on and turning the page. It's a big deal, right? So I just want to say thanks publicly for that. I get a view of it being on the Finance Committee, but it's a big deal to make this thing come off the way it does. So any questions or comments from board members about that budget closeout? Member Carey.
Yeah, I believe this is related. And Deputy Superintendent Jones, we had an email exchange on it. This board had requested the hiring of a accounting firm to do a cost-benefit analysis of federal revenue.
Yes.
So with that lead-in, could you provide an update as to the status of that request from the board? Thank you.
Yeah, so Chair Moss, if we could segue to the next report, which is the discretionary funds report, I'll be able to answer Board Member Carey's question in more detail and provide a visual on that too.
Yep, please do.
Okay, so if we'll pull the discretionary funds report up. Before we get to that though too, I do want to call your attention that there is a update on the COVID-19 funding, the ESSER funds for your review. We're not planning on doing a drill down on that, but for your notification and for the public's notification, there is an updated presentation in your backups on the ESSER funds too. Okay, to the discretionary funds report, and I do, Chair, at your direction, want to specifically address Board Member Carey's question. The board had previously voted to set aside $50,000 of discretionary funds for this project or process, where we would send an RFP out, a request for proposal, for auditing firms or accounting firms to make or answer the proposal to provide a in-depth audit or analysis of, and just at the state level, not not LEA level, how much, federal funding goes towards the administrative support to the grants, to all of the federal funding that we get at this level. As Board Member Carey noted, Chair, I did respond to him on his inquiry on where we're at in that process, and here is where we are at. We did have one, and only one, firm provide a response to the request for proposal. Both Chief Audit Executive Davis and I reviewed that. Our recommendation would be to ask that the board consider looking at increasing the amount of funding that was set aside, which is $50,000. Here's why. It's proven or factual that a lot of auditing firms right now are overwhelmed, and accounting firms are overwhelmed with requests for audit services, for accounting services, for this type of analysis. A higher amount of funding could attract more responses from or to the request for proposal. I mean, no guarantees, but 2 firms contacted me directly that we've worked with in the past saying, hey, we love you guys, but it's just, I mean, we're just overwhelmed right now, and the juice isn't worth the squeeze, so to speak, for $50,000 to devote the time and effort that it would take to get to what right is, to do the analysis and provide to your board members for decision-making purposes. Chair Moss, did I summarize well enough the current situation and status of that particular request and Board Member Carey's inquiry?
Member Carey, and I guess a separate question. Sorry if I missed it. Do you have a sense for what it would take to get more bites?
Yeah, so I would recommend that we that the board consider adding another $100,000 to get to a total of $150,000 made available to that. Now, it's not only about the money though. Like I said, there's more. It is. It's just true that audit firms and accounting firms are overwhelmed right now with requests. So there's no guarantee that even increasing it by that month would get more than just one response, right, to it. And if we decide to do something like that, I can also attest that it would mean that it would take much longer for any firm to get to what right is as far as providing a quality audit or analysis to you before the legislative session starts. It's just not feasible that anyone would be able to do that.
And the one who did put in?
Say again, sir?
The one who did put in, did they indicate whether they could meet? And again, I'm sorry.
They
if I missed
did.
it,
Yeah, there is indication that they could meet the established deadline that we gave them, which was, December before the start of the legislative session. So we would have to go with them now if we wanted to. But if we really want to see or get, other firms to respond to the proposal that may have a lot more experience or in-depth knowledge of what we're looking for here, I think that's what it'll take to do so. Now, I do want to point out too, and I was going to do this as part of the presentation here. If you notice the items that are highlighted in yellow, all of those are currently set to be considered by the Finance Committee tomorrow. So if board members would like or to see any additional, that's fine. I just encourage you to run it through Finance Committee, meaning, coordinate with your peer or colleague in Finance Committee, if it's okay with Chair Norton to do so, to see if you want to, update anything or amend anything beyond what actions we typically take at the beginning of every year related to when we know the balance is available in the discretionary funds, which we have now because we just closed and we certified our closure. So if you look in the upper right-hand corner, that's what's available. So all this will flow through the Finance Committee agenda item tomorrow.
All right, thank you. The numbers on the top right
Yeah.
column of remaining, I believe, are available.
Mhm.
Correct?
So
And none
the
of
amounts that
is-
are in the remaining are available pending tomorrow's action item with it too. So if you renew your contingency fund, those types of things, then those balances would change, obviously. Well, so the Finance Committee makes recommendations, then you, the board, would see those recommendations in October. So
What's the state funds item?
It's just state funds
reflect
are unrestricted funds. They're
unrestricted,
carry
no-
forward balances in the board's budget that you have available at your discretion.
And I lost track of where that came from, the 1.8. I mean, I know the various sources, but how did we end up with?
It's surplus dollars
1,800,000.
from state funds that are appropriated to you that were not expended in fiscal year '24.
And these were allocated to the district, or excuse me, to the
No.
USBE,
Yeah,
not to the
it's
district.
in-house
as
money.
As
Yeah,
opposed
it's
to
not
pass-through.
Right, no pass-through money, right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Had we initially thought we had need for that money and didn't, or how did we end up with the savings? I know each year we try to have savings, but.
There's combinations of reasons why vacancy savings, like positions weren't filled for the whole year, less money paid for maybe a contract came in under what we estimated or budgeted for, so you end up with surplus dollars. There's contributing factors within all of these different categories, but those are some of the biggest examples or primary
Right,
examples.
okay. Nothing jumped out this year, though, as
Oh, no.
contributing to the 1.8.
Right,
Okay.
yeah.
Vice Chair Earl?
Yeah, so if we wanted to increase that funding, we've got a couple options. We can ask for that increase tomorrow. We can put an action item on for next month, right? Because this is
Sure.
information. It's 3:35. We could post an action item because I dare say we'll go past 3:30 tomorrow,
Oh,
right? Those
Yeah,
those are possibilities.
yeah,
which
Chair
then puts
Moss,
you
I would
one-
defer to the parliamentarian on process and procedures for that, or yourself, too. But from my vantage point, I would say yes to Vice Chair Earl. I always say yes to Vice Chair Earl, so, anyway. Yeah.
That's a wise choice.
always,
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
I always defer to our parliamentarian. It sounds
Yeah.
right.
I mean,
to
I don't know
me,
what the body wants to do, but it would be 1 month earlier, or it's delayed a month either, you know what I mean?
Right,
So,
right.
Would we be able to notice it in terms of parliamentary procedure? I think it's just 24 hours, right? Didn't we notice carryover business anyway?
but it's not an action item.
So
It's an information item, or we could take action. We'd have to notice it as an action item.
Got it. So we noticed it, if we noticed it for after
Okay.
3,
That's fine. We can wait another
Can
month
I-
then.
well, to do it 24 hours, I guess the question is, if we noticed it now for 3:30 tomorrow, does that give us 24 hours? What's that? It could be an emergency. I think if you do it with 24 hours, you
24-hour
don't need
notice,
an
you don't need
emergency,
a-
correct?
3:35 right now.
Okay.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just asking. We don't have to do it. I'm just throwing it out there to
All
the
right.
body.
I do think
So,
it's a,
the option's there.
well, let's,
Well, we could put it on as at least an action item, get going on it. So,
well, do you think we'll be after, how long does it take to give notice? Is it an email to the world and say, hey? Right.
It just,
So does that,
it takes about 10 minutes.
you think we'll be here
Can
after
I-
3:45 tomorrow?
You-
Hold on, we're just working through this.
Yeah, but I have a question.
Okay, just time-wise, do we want to give that a shot and see if we can tee it up for 3:45 tomorrow? And if we're done by 3:45, then we don't get to it, right? Or unless it's an emergency, but we could notice it for 3:45 tomorrow if we're still here. Kristen will not be here. Could it be next month? I guess the question is, if we're going to increase the amount for the contractor, we're hoping to hear from them by December, right?
Oh,
So
no.
the-
Sir, may I be very clear? We wouldn't be increasing the amount for the one respondent. We would not be doing that.
No,
What we're
we'd be opening it
recommending
back
is
up.
increasing the amount to
Right.
re-release the proposal, which would mean another week.
Right.
Or 2 weeks, so that it potentially could attract more responses.
Right, no, I
Yeah.
get it.
Okay.
But,
okay.
but to start that, the idea is now instead of October gives us a better shot
Right.
being done by December, right? So,
Yes, sir.
I mean, we can always notice it and then decide that folks don't want to stick around or we don't even get there. So I'm in favor of noticing it for 3:45, and if we don't get there, we don't get there. Anybody opposed to that? It covers the bases. Would you rather not? That's what we've been asking. How long does it take to do that? And I'll let you guys
So,
take a look at that. Molly, Vice Chair Hart.
so are you saying that the one that did put in didn't meet the standards?
No, I'm not saying that at all. It's just one proposal. I mean, they're a good firm. However, we are aware that there are other firms that have more experience and more depth
Okay.
that do it. It's not a indictment of their capabilities or not. I'm sure
Okay.
they could do okay, but when you only get one response, we know what it's attributed
yeah.
to. So sometimes slow is smooth, smooth is fast, right? So if you do want more responses, all we're doing is suggesting what may trigger more responses to choose from. More responses to
Or
choose
it
from.
may not, and
It
the
may
same
not.
firm
No, there is that risk.
then gets
You're
paid
right.
an additional $100,000. I guess the question is the juice worth the squeeze?
That is the question. Well, let's see if we can notice it up and give ourselves some wiggle room. We may or may not take it, but we can have it floating out there, and then we can decide if we're willing to just go with what we got. We
So-
don't have this on the agenda today for action, so what's happening now, if not altered, is that we put out an RFP, we got one bid. Unless we interfere and say we're going to do something else, then they get the deal, right?
Right.
So you would have to.
That's the implication.
You
Yeah.
notice the meeting time. So are you noticing a meeting that starts at 3:30?
No, we are noticing
You-
for tomorrow afternoon.
Tomorrow afternoon's
That an
meeting
agenda item for
starts
this.
at, it had to be, because at 2:00, this is tomorrow. Well, that's
It's
what I'm
the
saying.
timing of trying to get word back from them before the legislative session. That was the intent of Member Carey's request. Member Carey, Vice Chair Earl, you guys have been, I'm just trying to preserve our options. And one way to do that is to notice it up and then see if we actually want to take it. The other is to just let it slide. I guess we would need, if we want to consider taking different action tomorrow, and that's the soonest we could do it, we'd have to notice up a meeting. We would be able to roll the 2:00 meeting into that meeting, right? We can always continue with the unfinished business, but we would hit 3:30 or 3:45 and then have the ability to go into that discussion of where they wanted to allocate more money from the discretionary fund, and we could do that tomorrow. If we decide between now and 3:45 that we're good, then we're good, right? So I'm just trying to preserve the options for folks who want to maybe reconsider. Is there a desire to have the option out there? Member Bogus?
So, sir, unless there's enjoining factors in our bylaws, any item on the agenda under Robert's Rules of Order is open for action. That's in the book.
Can you
But that's
So-
not in the
cite us
Open
to
Public
that?
Meetings
Because I don't
Act.
want to get in trouble and maybe we have some different interpretations.
That's not in the Open and Public Meetings Act, though.
Oh,
The
oh
Open
yeah,
and
okay, we're
Public
talking about
Meetings Act is
OPMA as
the
opposed to
first
Robert's rules, so good distinction.
Okay, so
We're
then
worried about OPMA.
I would carry over the board discretionary funds, and then there would already be an action item on the agenda for tomorrow.
It's information.
So the board has taken action on many things that were information in the past.
We try hard not to. We
Mm.
typically, if we notice it for info, we don't take action. You know, look, if we can, I'm just, what's your take, Member Carey? It was your proposed project, so.
Yeah, and Chair, and I am grateful, because I do think it would be important to have the information before the legislative session, so I am grateful. If this body will be here at that time, I'm all for scheduling this next meeting, but if there's going to be a gap and wait, then absolutely not. But if we queue it up and we're here, great. If we queue it up and we're not here, then we just wait till October.
Right, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
It preserves the option, so I think perhaps we can just tee it up. Yes, let's tee it up. This doesn't bind us to anything. It just gives us the option.
We can always move it.
So hit send. Okay. 3:34. For those listening in public, we have given notice of potential action. We may or may not get there. So let's go back to the discussion item that we're on for today. Thank you. Sorry for that. But I think timing is quick here, and this will give us a bit of opportunity to weigh best
Yeah.
options. Let's see. So we were in the middle of the discussion item. Back to, let's
Yep.
see.
Chair Moss,
Leave off.
pending any other questions or concerns by you or any of the board members, that concludes the monthly budget report. I do want to give a shout out to the one person that remained on YouTube. Love you, Mom. Thank you for being here for my presentation. So thank you. So thank you, Chair.
Thank
In
you.
all seriousness, we're in great shape. Thank you all. So, all right.
Thank you. And we have given OPMA notice to your mom for tomorrow. So she's welcome back. All right.